It's a lot of hypocrisy going on, man. And it's really hilarious how some of these Paige Bueckers fans are making her day about Caitlin.
Some people started saying that Paige Bueckers is making a bigger impact than Caitlin Clark, right after UConn won the championship. But are they living in an alternate reality? Clark wasn't even playing in that game, yet she still seemed to be on everyone's mind during the national championship. Instead of celebrating a great storybook ending, some fans turned it into a debate between Bueckers and Clark.
Caitlin Clark was trending at #1 over Dawn Staley and Paige Bueckers for a little bit right after UConn won, right? I wouldn't even say a little bit. It had to be like a 2-hour run. But she was #1, right? Ring on Paige finger, no ring on Caitlin finger. And gonna put the little asterisk. Paige better than Caitlin, just in case Real forgot. We counting rings here.
The viewership numbers tell a different story, one that shows just how big Caitlin Clark's impact on women's basketball really is. If you've been wondering whether the sport can keep its momentum after Clark, the data might surprise you. Ready? Let's dive in.
Some of the same people who didn't want people comparing Caitlin Clark to Paige and Juju, they're doing the same thing, man. It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous, man. They couldn't even allow Paige Bueckers to have her day.
The scoreboard said it all. UConn 82, South Carolina 59. This wasn't just a win. It was a statement. The Huskies had completely dominated a team once seen as unbeatable, delivering a championship performance that perfectly marked Paige Bueckers' comeback. After missing an entire season with a torn ACL, a setback that could have ended her college career, Bueckers had finally reached the top. Standing in the middle of falling confetti, holding the trophy, she embodied everything she had fought so hard to overcome.
UConn Huskies defeated South Carolina 82-59 to win the national championship. Now, this is the 12th national title under Coach Geno Auriemma. This UConn team was kind of a prime example of peaking at the right moment because for the past 2 months, they have been absolutely unstoppable.
The win marked Geno Auriemma's 12th national championship, an achievement unmatched in college basketball. His legacy as a coach was already cemented, but now it feels almost legendary. On the court, players hugged, tears fell, and the nets came down in celebration.
This is the biggest big three, the most talented big three that I can remember in recent history. And these three just coming together, obviously with the role players around them, they have just looked like a well-oiled machine. They breezed through the tournament. I don't know if there was any close game that they had during this tournament, including the national championship game.
Sarah Strong, UConn's standout freshman, delivered a breakout performance that gave a glimpse of the program's bright future. Meanwhile, Azzi Fudd completed her own comeback story, playing key minutes after overcoming injuries that mirrored Bueckers' struggles. Bueckers capped it all off by winning the Most Outstanding Player award.
Paige balled out in the tournament, and before this national championship game, she had a 30-point game, a 40-point game, and then another 30-point game. And Paige ended off the game with 17 points in this national championship game, but she also landed third on most points in the NCAA tournament. So she ended with 477 points. Now, Caitlin Clark holds this record at 492 points in 17 games played. And then Shamika Holzclaw, she has 479 points in 22 games played, and Paige scored 477 points in 22 games played. So she's third on that list. She is in great company, and she had a fantastic tournament.
But while champagne was still being popped in the locker room, something toxic was brewing online. The celebration had barely started when social media was flooded with a different kind of narrative. One that didn't celebrate UConn's achievement, but instead tried to fuel a manufactured rivalry. Former NBA player Ethan Thomas was among the first to stir the pot, posting, "When I asked why Paige Bueckers doesn't get the same hype as Caitlin Clark, people said she wasn't as good or as special. Well, now she's got a championship, something Clark doesn't. So do you still believe that, or is there another reason?"
Paige has more rings, than Caitlin Clark. I mean, made this whole day about Paige getting the ring over Caitlin Clark. It's crazy, man. Paige going out in a way that Caitlyn couldn't. A national champion. That's the separator behind their legendary careers. Let's effing go.
Within minutes, what should have been Paige Bueckers' moment turned into a debate about Caitlin Clark. Instead of celebrating Bueckers' brilliant performance, her precision against South Carolina's defense and leadership throughout the tournament, commentators and fans shifted focus. Her achievement became just another talking point in the ongoing argument over who deserves more attention, more praise, and more recognition.
Ring on Paige finger, but no ring on Caitlyn finger. Ring on Paige finger, no ring on your finger, Caitlyn. I mean, they made it all about Caitlyn, bro. Paige Bueckers, more rings than Caitlin Clark. Hey, man, this is crazy work.
The shift happened in an instant. One moment, fans were celebrating the climax of an inspiring comeback story. The next, the conversation was flooded with hot takes, comparing two players who've each made a huge impact on women's basketball in their own way. Suddenly, phrases like moving the needle took over, with Bueckers' championship being used as proof that she deserved the spotlight Caitlin Clark had held all season.
At this point, I think Caitlyn is Michael Jordan, because everybody is chasing her legacy. At least that's what the fans are making it seem like. It's just crazy to me how ESPN don't have Caitlin Clark as one of the best players in college or women's basketball. But for some reason, every women's basketball player is supposedly chasing her legacy.
The pure joy on the court stood in sharp contrast to the divisive, often mean-spirited debates erupting online. Players who had just achieved something historic saw their moment instantly reduced to a talking point in a rivalry they never asked to be part of. Their triumph wasn't just theirs anymore. It was being repurposed for an argument far removed from the game itself.
You do have some Caitlin Clark fans getting on Twitter as well and calling them out. I never heard of people putting down certain players for winning a natty until Caitlin Clark didn't win. That's a fact. Paige won a ring, but every tweet I see is about Caitlin. Levels. Why y'all bringing up Caitlin? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, I don't understand it, man. UConn won it all, and all my timeline shows is Caitlyn tears. Man, y'all can't celebrate something in peace.
Behind all the hot takes and heated Twitter threads lies something more concrete. Cold, hard data. While some loudly claimed that Paige Bueckers was moving the needle more than Caitlin Clark, the TV ratings paint a very different picture. When you cut through the noise and look at the numbers, the gap between 2024 and 2025 viewership isn't just noticeable, it's staggering. As one commentator put it, everyone keeps saying Paige Bueckers will move the needle in the WNBA like Caitlin Clark did. Maybe she will, but in college, that needle didn't budge. It didn't even shiver compared to Caitlin Clark.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody keeps telling me that Paige Bueckers is going to move the needle on the WNBA in the same way that Caitlin Clark did. Well, maybe she will, but I know one thing. In college, nah, that needle ain't moving. That needle didn't shiver compared to Caitlin Clark.
Let's get into the numbers. The 2024 Final Four matchup between Iowa and UConn drew a staggering 14.2 million viewers. That's right, minus 14.2 million people tuned in to watch Caitlin Clark face off against Paige Bueckers and the Huskies in a thrilling semifinal. That single game became a cultural moment, pulling in everyone from die-hard basketball fans to casual viewers. Then came Clark's final college game, the 2024 National Championship against South Carolina. It drew an eye-popping 18.9 million viewers, making it the most-watched women's college basketball game in history.
It wasn't the Caitlin Clark effect, but it was still pretty impressive. Look, I got to be honest, this 8.5 million viewers that they drew on Sunday, I'm not going to lie, that's more than I thought it would be. I mean, so I guess if we're going to give them any flowers, they drew a bigger rating than I thought they were going to. So there's that, which was the third most in tournament's history per ESPN, but it was a steep decline from last year's game and a slight drop from 2023's matchup. So 2023 and 2024 both whipped this particular game.
Now fast forward to 2025, where UConn and South Carolina, the same two teams Clark broke viewing records against, would face up. You'd imagine if Clark were not moving the needle, then these two powerhouse teams would still achieve the same success. Right here's where facts don't lie. The final 4 games featuring UConn versus UCLA and South Carolina versus Texas pulled in 4, 1 million and 3.6 million viewers respectively. Then came the finals between UConn and South Carolina that pulled a whopping, wait for it, 8.5 million viewers. Yes, these numbers still made it the third most watched finals, a commendable achievement worth celebrating, but the drop-off from the previous year is impossible to ignore.
The title game in 2024 brought in a record-setting 18.9 million viewers as fans watched Dawn Staley's South Carolina team complete an undefeated season and beat the Clark-led Iowa Hawkeyes 87-75. Even with Staley's Gamecocks taking on another superstar in Paige Bueckers and UConn, led by great coach Geno Auriemma, the game could not stack up to 2024's.
The math isn't complicated. Over 10 million viewers who tuned into women's college basketball in 2024 simply didn't show up in 2025. That's not a small dip or a minor fluctuation. It's a massive drop-off. When someone moves the needle, it usually means a slight bump, maybe a few percentage points. But when Caitlin Clark moves it, the entire dial spins.
So with less homes being counted, the number was 10 million people greater. Folks, in order to cut through the bullshit, I'm going to give it to you straight up. These numbers are pathetic. These numbers are abysmal. These numbers aren't...
What makes these numbers even more telling is the context. The 2025 tournament wasn't short on storylines, far from it. It had the dominant, defending champions from South Carolina, Paige Bueckers' inspiring comeback, and a legendary UConn program chasing another title. These are the kinds of narratives that usually drive strong viewership. Yet without Caitlin Clark on the court, millions of fans simply tuned out. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore when you look at the broader trend. During the 2024 tournament, games featuring Iowa consistently shattered viewership records. And it wasn't just the Final Four, regular season games, early round matchups, even Iowa's practice sessions drew unprecedented attention. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't a moment, it was a movement.
Numbers are so good. 8.1 million. Oh my God, 9.8 million. Folks, realize what this means. 100% of U.S. markets. So that means the Caitlin Clark 18 million was 66% of U.S. homes being included. Caitlin Clark 14 million against UConn. That was 66% of homes being included.